still watching New Day, and this is TV3. We want to spend a few minutes to talk about evidence-informed policy making. I'm sure you've heard lots about policy making, but today we want to narrow the conversation to evidence-informed policy making. And to help me with the discussion, I've been joined in the studio by Ibrahim Inusa, who is the Executive Director for Ghana Information Network for Knowledge Sharing. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And then I have Emily Hayter, who is a Program Manager for Evidence-Informed Policymaking. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Great. So let me start from you, Ibrahim. Tell us about the organization, just to put a context to our conversation this morning.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here. My organization, GINGS, is Ghana Information Network for Knowledge Sharing. And what we do primarily is we promote the use of ICT as a tool for development, and also we promote and build capacity in evidence-informed policy making here in Ghana. And what we do is to build the capacity of civil servants and staff of parliament in their uptake, how evidence can be used to help them in fashioning out policies to so that for the development of the country.
Okay, that's interesting. And then Emily, tell us about your role. What exactly do you do?
INASP is a UK-based organisation. We work on the production, sharing and use of research in 25 developing countries.
Okay.
So we are working here in Ghana with GINGS, who are leading our work on evidence-informed policy making here in Ghana.
Okay. So I assume you've been moving from country to country, to help fashion this particular evidence-informed policy making. So let me ask from your point of view, generally, when we talk of policy making, what are the factors that goes into it?
So we would normally look at 4 different kinds of information that we think are important for policy making. So we're not just talking about academic research, we're also talking about administrative statistical data, for example, citizen knowledge and citizen voice, practice-informed experiential knowledge. So we're looking at lots of different kinds of information that would be drawn on for that policy-making process. And we know that there's lots of different stakeholders that produce valuable information for policy. So from researchers to civil society organizations, media, there are lots of different players who are producing information that can be useful for the policy-making process.
I see. And what you are championing is evidence-informed policy making.
Yeah.
So zooming in on that particularly, how will that improve the system? How will that make it better for policymakers if they should adapt the strategy to inform the policies they make?
So what we believe is that by better use of those different kinds of evidence, policies can be fashioned that are more responsive to the real needs on the ground, and that are maybe more feasible and more realistic given the constraints. So we're not just talking about basing policy purely on evidence, but also there's a whole other set of factors that influence the policy-making process. For example, budgetary constraints, cultural and religious beliefs, political realities. So for us, it's a really complex picture, and evidence is one part of that picture. So we think that by strengthening the use of those different kinds of evidence, we can end up with policies that are more achievable and more targeted to real needs on the ground.
All right. And Ibrahim, let's come to Ghana. Let's talk about Ghana. We are in Ghana now. Do you think that it is very right at this point for policymakers in Ghana to take a very good look at adapting evidence-informed policymaking in fashioning out the policies we have here?
Yes, I think it's very, very important to adapt. Looking at evidence-informed policymaking, as my colleague stated, there are varied or different kinds of evidence that we need in order to inform our decision or inform us in developing a policy. Most often, policymakers don't look at the overall various kinds of policy evidence that we have. They look at certain 1 or 2, but for us, we are promoting the use of various kinds of evidence, because it is only when you have different kinds of evidence, data, research, citizens' knowledge, you put all together. And then once you have them together, then you'll be able to make an informed decision on which way to go. But if you take one, you don't get the true picture of what. So I think that here in Ghana, it is important that we do that. And that is why in the last 3 years, we've been working with Civil Service Training Center to build the capacity of civil servants. And what we've been doing is to take them through a series of training, 10 days training. We have developed a module, toolkit, that will take them through various steps in how in getting evidence, so that they will be able to, when they go back to their respective places of work, they will be able to come out with a very strong policies. Most often when people write cabinet memos, it lacks the data, the evidence to support it, and it doesn't fly. It's mostly being rejected. So we have been taking these civil servants through that kind of training, and we did the same for staff of parliament, where parliamentarians come to parliamentary staff to access information. We train them also in order that they'll be able to get accurate data that is also realistic for parliamentarians to work with. So if a member of parliament wants information on any topic, the member of parliament goes to the staff of parliament, research department, ANSAD, committee, ICT, and library. These are the people who are generating information for parliament. And so these people will help the parliamentarians to get accurate data and information, so that when you go to the floor of the House, they will be able to participate meaningfully in discussion.
Okay, so let me find out from you, over the past 3 years, what has been the response from the people you are engaging?
Yeah, the response has been that when you take Civil Service Training Center, for instance, the course that we rolled out with them has been a new course, which is, I can say, new in Ghana here. And so what we have done with Civil Service Training Center is to embed the course, to get them to use the course as part of their training module, so that all civil servants who go through Civil Service Training Center will have the opportunity to learn evidence-informed policy making, so that they will be able to do their work well. And it's the same thing that we are doing with Parliament as well.
Great. Emily, so generally, I'm sure this is not the first time you are going into a country to help support this whole process. For the other countries you visited, what has been the success rate of this evidence-informed policy making?
I think it looks different in each country that we're working in. I mean, our program is working in 4 African countries as the focus of our program. So Ghana being one, we're also working in Uganda, in Zimbabwe, and in South Africa. So we take a different approach in each country, and I think, as I mentioned before, I mean, we see evidence-informed policy making as quite a complex thing, and obviously it's very particular to the political context that we're working in. So it looks different in each place. But overall, we've had a lot of support from the parliaments. We're working with 3 parliaments across our 4 countries and 3 ministries, and also the Civil Service Training Centre, as Ibrahim mentioned. So there's been a very positive response, and people are taking it on and discussing it in their own way in each country.
I see. So, Ibrahim, let me come to you again. There's an upcoming symposium. Yeah. In fact, it starts today, right? Yes. Can you tell us about it? Where is it happening? Okay. Who is going to speak at those symposiums? Who will attend? Okay. And then let's get some further details on that.
Okay. We have the symposium brings together all our consortium partners coming from 12 countries in Africa and Latin America Latin America. And these are people or partners that we've been working with in the past 3 years. We are coming together because she mentioned they've been working in different other countries. The countries, we all have tried different strategy in implementing evidence-informed policy making. So we are bringing all our partners together to learn from each other in the various strategies that each country uses, so that we can learn moving forward from that. We also we have other members of the consortium who also contributed in diverse ways in making the success story we are talking about, EIPM. And so they are also going to be part of this conversation. We are expecting 40 participants from across the globe. And that's one leg of it. The second leg of it is that tomorrow we want to climax it with a forum, stakeholders forum on EIPM, evidence-informed policy making. In Ghana here, GINS has been championing the use of evidence in Ghana. And we did it with Civil Service Parliament. We also did what we call policy dialogues, where we moved into 4 different regional capitals to create the awareness at the district level. Because in Accra we are working with the ministry. So we went also to the district level to create the awareness, the importance and benefits of using evidence, so that workers or people working at the district level are able to appreciate and understand what we're doing. So the forum tomorrow is bringing together all these stakeholders, those in Accra at the district level, the policymakers, and all the key players to come, and then we'll see the way forward in terms of evidence-informed policy making. So I want to take this opportunity to invite the general public to come over. It's happening at Coconut Grove here in Accra, and it starts at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. So all the general public are cordially invited to come and participate.
Right. So two things. Yeah. The one for today is not open to the general public, but the one tomorrow is the one that the general public can attend.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Great. Emily, final words from you. Let's look at sustainability. You know, what is the long-term plan to ensure that the countries you go into adapt the evidence-informed policy making so that it doesn't appear like just a 3-year project and then it goes away? Because from what you said, there are lots of benefits that comes from adapting that approach. What is the strategic approach to ensuring sustaining such a useful approach to policy making?
I think the first thing is to make sure that the approach that we're taking isn't something that is separate from what's already happening in the countries where we're working. So in all the countries where we're working, there's already interest and momentum around information and evidence and policy making in different ways. So the first thing is to really try and make sure that our program taps into what's already going on and supports the ideas and the initiatives that people already have on the ground. I think another thing also that's really important is building sustainable networks. So, I mean, key to our whole approach to evidence-informed policy making is that there's a lot of really excellent research being done in all the countries where we're working. There are NGOs who can contribute, civil society organizations that can contribute, think tanks. So our approach really rests on trying to build networks between those groups of actors across the research to policy system in one country. So for example, we're leaving behind a lot of interesting networks for evidence-informed policy making. We work with the Zimbabwe Evidence-Informed Policy Network in Zimbabwe, which has been starting a whole series of national level discussions around evidence in Zimbabwe and forming sustainable partnerships. In Uganda, Parliament of Uganda actually just held its first research week in partnership with the Uganda National Academy of Sciences, and they've set up a partnership which is going to involve learning exchanges and pairing schemes between scientists and MPs. So for us, it's really just about leaving behind relationships at the national level across the research to policy system, and if we can do that, then that's success for us, I think.
Great. So let me say a very big thank you to you, Ibrahim Inusa. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Emily Hayter. We wish you well in your program.
Thank you.
And we hope 3 years, 4 years down the lane, we can have a conversation again to look at the direct impact this has made on policy making in Ghana. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.